So we got ourselves another custom desktop to work on today. Customer brought it in with complaints of overheating. So we're gonna kind of start it up. We're gonna run a little bit of stress test on it, and then kind of see where we are at with that. I don't know any of the specifications of the hardware at this point, so we're gonna figure that out as we go along. And I'll make some notes, but overall, yeah, it should be pretty straightforward to figure out what's going on. Which, I mean, we might have already figured out what the problem is. See if I can do what I've done in the past. That sound is coming out of the water pump. So we might just go right to water pump replacement. Yeah, unplugging the CPU fan goes away immediately. So becomes a relatively simple and straight diagnostic. So we're gonna pull this off. We're gonna take a look at it and then see if it's. Also doesn't help that these screws that are on here are less than hand tight. Let's take it off, take a look, see what we got. I think I'm at a point where I just need to start keeping a single 120 mil or 140 millimeter. No, it's 120 millimeter CPU cooler. Just here in the shop, like a custom water loop. My brain is just fried today. But just like a little custom. Why do I keep saying custom? Just a all-in-one water cooler. It also, like I said, it doesn't help. This thing is like incredibly loose on this motherboard. So I don't know if this guy actually had it all the way installed or what. The hell's going on there? Let's pull it. I've never even heard of this company. But also, all of these screws are loose. Even these screws are like I'm barely putting any pressure on this and it's just spinning out. So let's get this all the way out and we'll get a good look at it, and then I have a feeling the issue is going to be that there's no more coolant left in the reservoir. Which is a pretty common thing with these things, because what ends up happening is people run them for so long, and like these things have a life of usually 3 to 5 years before they need to be replaced. And once you get past that, you run the risk of this thing just running completely dry. What's going on, Holden? So yeah, this, like, you can hear the liquid in here sloshing around. It's not very much. So there's no visible fill port on this, which means more than likely it's filled through the barb fittings, which would be interesting. So let's let me see if I actually have a cooler that'll fit on there, and then take this back plate off. At least these screws are tight, unlike these other ones. And AMD, interesting. I wonder why that says AMD. I wonder if that's, oh, it's got to be for these center holes. Go ahead and swap in. This one should fit. I'm just making sure that the holes line up. I'll just swap this on here for some actual thermal testing. This one isn't going to fit. Actually, it doesn't look like I'm going to have one that's going to work on here. So let's figure out what CPU this is. RAM latency does matter for when you end up in higher end applications. Most people can't, detect the differences in RAM latency. But like if you're looking at two sticks of RAM that are the same price, but one has a lower latency on it, obviously always go with the lower latency as long as they have, everything else being equal. So this is the second gen i7, which means, let me look up see what the socket is on that. LGA 1155. So, first things first, I need to remount this fan now that we no longer have those screws going through it. Let's get this thing out of here. Put it where it belongs, in the bin. Get rid of all this bracketry. Let's get this fan mounted up back here. 1, 2, 3. We want this exhausting, so mount it up like so. There's 1. 2. 3. And 4. All right, so we got the rear fan right there for an exhaust. Just this guy on there. Show everything. Make sure he gets that for warranty stuff. Intel. And let's see here. Everything. Printed, they are not printed. So, just verify everything here. Where's the bracket? Where's my bracket? So, now this is the blue one. Are for the LGA 1700, but I still need these posts. So let's get this guy open. And the nice thing for this guy is he would be able to take this, like this cooling setup, and move it over to a newer socket if he ever so desired, or even an AMD. So, alright, so I want the inside triangle for this. So I'll show this real quick. With the nice like setup that these Noctuas have, they have a nice little triangle, and when you look at the actual bolt, it also has a triangle. So what you do is you just rotate it around, which keep it firm. So if you wanted the LGA 1700, which is I believe, yeah, it's the outside one. So if you were to set it up, it would look like that. Point with the arrow pointing to the outside. If you want an LGA 1500, opposite way, arrows pointing towards the inside. And then you just have this little black plastic clip, which clips right on there. And that's how it's held in place. So, nice little convenient thing, and then you're able to just slot this through the motherboard. And then I'll kind of show how to mount the rest of this up. So this video went from diagnosing an overheating issue to how to install a Noctua NH-L9x65. These are spares. We put the spares back in the box. These are going to be the brackets that are actually going to go off from the front, on the top of the motherboard. They're actually empty this time. So we have, and we'll also have these black spacers, which I'll show how to install. And then, cool. And these guys are going to go on top. Should not need those. Alright, so back plate, pretty simple and straightforward. When you're looking at it, sometimes when you have this, when we have this square, there'll be a little notch cut out of one side. That'll be for this screw that's, you know, kind of sticking out here from the bottom. Some motherboards have it, some don't. Like this one here has a notch on the outside, so you can mount, you can actually put this in either direction and it'll still work just fine. Then we just put a little hand on that, flip it over. We're going to slide one of these black plastic spacers right over that. over the posts that went through. How you doing today, Roy Batty? And this one here is saying it should be on the sides, not the top and bottom. So we'll put it on the sides. And then on these guys, I'll show you here. Just put a single screw on there. On these the brackets that go above the motherboard, there are numbers on both sides. So you have the 1, 2, and 3. Just make sure you have the same on both sides when you put it on the motherboard. Yeah, I swear by Noctua too. It's the only thermal compound I used, and as far as their coolers, I recommend them for basically every single one of my customers, unless they're going water cooling. But I mean, these Noctua coolers can easily compete with basically any straight up all-in-one liquid cooler that is currently on the market. They're great. And we just put these thumb screws on here. Get them hand tight. Don't need to crank it all the way down. You just want to make sure they're nice and firm. And I'm not actually putting a lot of torque on them because we don't want to over torque them. Just want to make sure they're firm and you can't spin them off with your fingers. So 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, good. Now, on both sides here of this, there's a screw for these guys. We're going to take some of Noctua's own thermal paste. For the LGA 1155, they actually recommend doing 5 dots, 1 in each corner, and then 1 in the center. If you're wondering what the correct amount of thermal paste is, or thermal paste, maybe a shot here so you can get an idea of how much I'm using. Just about that much. You don't need much more than that, because as soon as you get it on there and you start tightening down the actual cooler, it'll spread itself out just fine. Don't want to lose this. All right. Alright, so for this one, we're going to actually have to take off the fan to get it on there. So because you have slots on both sides for a screwdriver. And make sure everything's lined up. Tighten it down. That's lined up. Make sure these guys are actually pretty firm, because this is something you don't want moving around. This is the thing that's the metal plate that's actually making direct pressure onto the CPU and spreading that heat out. One thing we're probably going to run into a little bit with this one, and I'm going to see how I'm going to be able to do this, is this memory. Like, this whole motherboard setup on this computer is extremely tight. So, like, it's kind of difficult to see, but I can't physically move these because it's physically pressing against the back plate for the GPU. So I'm going to have to kind of slot this guy down in here, move the RAM just ever so slightly, and just to get this underneath that little ridge. I have a little tool that I can use to help me with this a little bit. Just gotta go down. Man, this is a tight fit for this. There we go. Alright, so that side's on. That's the difficult side. This is the easy side. Say that right before disaster. Brackets go on. Actually, let me do it that way, so that the wire is above, not below, this metal. Line this up, push it down, And there we go. Then we just take our 4-pin CPU, plug it into the CPU for the header on the motherboard. Alright, meat hooks in there, and there we go. Now, let's see what we got temperature-wise. We'll start this up and we'll run a series of tests on it that are designed to put a artificial load on the CPU and see what kind of temperatures we get. Hey, thanks for watching that video. If you liked the video, hit that like button. If you want to see more content like this, make sure you hit the subscribe button. And I stream daily on Twitch from 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you ever have a question or concern about your computer and you just want to see if you can get an answer, swing by my Twitch channel. I'm usually there live. I can either myself or one of my community members will be able to answer your question. So stop by, hang out, and maybe learn a thing or two.